All right, so today I'm going to be fertilizing and plowing up this food plot. This is our wettest ground food plot. Well, I have a little clover plot that's actually further in the brush there. It's even wetter than this, but this is our wettest big ground food plot that we put corn into. I've tried growing soybeans in here in the past, and there's just the ground in here is just not suited for growing beans. It's just too much iron chlorosis. They just turn yellow, and then the water hemp just takes over. So this field from now on is mainly just going to be corn and brassica kind of just altering, rotating between spots in here and stuff. And you can see all this water hemp. This is all water hemp coming back. This is some giant ragweed, just real nasty stuff. All this giant ragweed gets like freaking 10 feet tall. The water hemp gets like 6 feet tall. This whole field's just infested with Roundup resistant weeds.
Just a scar somewhere down inside of me, something I cannot repair, even though it will always be. I pretend it isn't there. I'm trapped in yesterday, where the pain is all I know. And I'll never break away, 'cause when I'm alone, I'm lost in these memories, living behind my own illusion, lost all my dignity, living inside my own confusion. But I'm tired, I will always be afraid of the damage I've received, broken promises they made, and how blindly I believed. I will never break away, 'cause when I'm alone, I'm lost in these memories, living behind my own illusion, lost all my dignity, living inside my own confusion. I try to keep this pain inside, but I will never be alright. I try to keep this pain inside, but I will never be alright. I try to keep this pain inside, but I will never be alright. I try to keep this pain inside, but I will never be alright. I'm lost in these memories, living behind my own illusion, lost all my dignity, living inside my own confusion.
All right, so here we are. Things are looking good. You can see I got all this shelled corn on the ground. I'm going through and I'm gonna probably throw about 75 pounds, a bag and a half of shelled corn out for the turkeys and birds and cranes, because I cultivated this yesterday. So like you look over here, no weeds at all coming up. And I did spray all this corn with simazine. So we'll see how good that stuff holds back the weeds now that we got a little bit of rain this morning to soak that simazine in the ground. And you can see up here there's a bunch of volunteer corn, because we had a bunch of standing corn here that we tried picking it, and and a lot of it's coming back. It actually looked worse than what it does now before I cultivated it. I was hoping cultivating would kill some of it. Look at this, someone just dug all this up right here. That's just from yesterday. That wasn't like that. But yeah, all this is coming up, so we'll see how this turns out. I know if I spray this, obviously it's not going to kill the corn, so cultivating it, there'll be a few extra plants that survive in the rows, which is fine. It'll just make the row thicker. But I noticed, where was it? Somewhere up on this edge, there was a lot of them getting pulled out already by probably turkeys, because I saw turkeys dusting in here, and there was tracks, and there was a couple pulled out. We had a little bit of corn on the other food plot that way that got pulled out too. So every year I kind of just monitor it pretty heavily when the corn's at this stage, because this is when it's the most vulnerable. You can see some of this volunteer corn has survived the 2 cultivation passes through here, which is pretty amazing. This corn is better rooted in the ground than a lot of the weeds are. But yeah, this might be a pretty thick section of corn here, so we'll see how this turns out. I think it'll be all right. Just got a few extra plants in here. Well, here we are. This will likely be the last update of this plot. This stuff's looking pretty darn nice. And the crazy thing is, I didn't even have to spray this stuff. This is like our wettest ground field, like I said earlier in the video, and this corn just takes off once I get it planted. Man, it's almost catching up to some of the other corn up there that was planted like 2-3 weeks earlier. And the reason why I cultivated it twice, and this is the reason why I didn't have to spray, is because it honestly didn't look like it needed it the whole year. I mean, there's a few weeds in here now, but out of all the corn I planted, this is probably the corn I planted that, you know, where the simazine was actually the most effective, because we got a rain like multiple days after planting, where our drier ground spots where we have corn, I mean, we didn't get rain until like 3 to 4 weeks after planting. So that's why there was a lot of those plots I did have to spray with glyphosate. But this, I use usually my weediest plot. You can see a whole new flush of little weeds starting, but those will only get about shin high probably at best. But the thing I'm worried about is this giant ragweed in here. There's these big plants inside the rows since I never sprayed. This stuff is almost as tall as the corn, and you know, this stuff gets like 8 to 10 feet tall. So there might be some pretty large stalks of this stuff in here. I mean, look at the size of some of these. Pretty much the same height as the corn. I probably should have came through and sprayed it once, because it would have definitely knocked back pretty much all these giant ragweeds. These I can usually kill, but this water hemp right here, if it's a plant like this big, you're not going to kill it. And sometimes even smaller, they survive. But that simazine really held back a large majority of the water hemp, because usually, I mean, it's like as thick as this, if not thicker. And you look in these rows, I mean, you got like 1, 2, believe it or not, this is only 3 plants right here. Well, 4 or 5. The simazine did a good job holding back, you know, at least 90% of the weeds, but that 10% that came up, you know, is still here inside the corn rows where the cultivator couldn't get. I could go through here and pull some of these here and there, but I'm more focused on keeping my soybean plots weed free, because I just hand pulled a ton up there and a different little soybean plot too today. So I'm happy with this plot. There's obviously weeds in here, but the corn looks like it's ahead of the weeds slightly. Doesn't look like, I mean, these weeds are gonna, you know, probably drop the yield a little bit, but we got so much corn here. I mean, we don't even need all this corn. So about half of this corn is NutriCrave. This is all field corn that I'm in right now. I forget the total row, the total amount of rows, but somewhere right in here is where it switches to NutriCrave. I got like roughly 10 rows here. I got like 8 rows of NutriCrave over there, and then field corn along the woods again. And then in the center here, I don't think I updated you on this for a long time, but I had 2 test rows of soybeans, see how they would do in here. And I did come through here and hand pull a bunch of water hemp in here because I wanted to get an actual test to see how well these soybeans will actually do. You can see they're really not looking good because this is all iron chlorosis symptoms. This yellowing and brown and just real severe stunting. Thankfully the corn doesn't really suffer from it. But then I got 2 rows of sweet corn here. This stuff's looking fantastic. 2 more rows of beans, and then this is where a bunch of volunteer corn came up. So pretty much, oh, and I should also point out these first 2 rows of corn, this is the 85-day corn, some leftover seed we had from last year. We planted this stuff almost everywhere last year. This was just a little bit of the leftover stuff I had. And then the NutriCrave starts, and then the field corn starts. So you can kind of see how this stuff kind of has like wavy leaves, kind of like what that sweet corn looked like. And looking this way, all this volunteer corn coming up, that's all the 85-day corn from last year, because that's what was planted right here. And there was a bunch of it left right here in the spring. And for some reason, that stuff seems to have a little bit more wavy leaves. A lot of this might end up, this is definitely going to stalk snap once it dries down, probably October, November. I wouldn't be surprised even if it gets root lodged, if we get a really heavy windstorm, because it's just way too thick right there. But thankfully, that's the one area I didn't cultivate. I kind of left that alone in that little section there. But going down here, I did cultivate this twice. So it was able to kill the corn inside the rows that, you know, volunteer corn that came up. But I got some volunteer corn in all these rows. That's why it's not really a row. It's just corn growing everywhere in here. So we'll see how this turns out. I'll have updates of all these plots this summer. I'll make sure to definitely point out in that update video how this really thick, high population corn's looking. I just drove through here today. That's why some of it looks like it's crushed down. I wanted to get at least one more pass on these soybeans. If I want to cultivate these soybeans another time, I'll have to literally back in here, which will be a pain. So yeah, you'll see this plot and all my other plots sometime probably this late August or so. I still got a few more planting the corn and soybean videos to get out. I got a no-till video into rye, planting corn into rye video I'll have to get out soon. And then this is the soybeans on this side. And this is not sweet corn. This is actually some Indian corn right here. We put Indian corn on this half, but we're not going to get much Indian corn because all this volunteer corn came up. But we'll get a little bit of Indian corn out of here, and we'll probably leave a little bit of this for the deer too and see how hard they hit it. Right next to the NutriCrave and field corn. And I got field corn, I think it's like 100-day maturity. And then, like I said, I got all this 85-day maturity. So I got literally 4 or 5 different types of corn out here, including the sweet corn. So this is pretty diverse corn plot, even though it just looks like all corn. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video, I guess.